Welcome back to Introduction to iOS Application Development at SSFS. The focus of this video is going to be on strings. We've kind of touched on strings before, but we'll take a more in-depth look at them today. So far, all I've done is open up Xcode, I've created a new playground, and I've named it strings, and this is the screen that comes up when I'm done with that. So, as you can see, I've actually already created a string here, or Xcode has created a string. And it's a string because I see the quotes. And in fact, this is what is called a string literal. And that's probably the easiest way to define a string is by creating a phrase and surrounding it in quotation marks. And as you know from last unit, this is a variable. And I can also create a constant, a string constant, by using let. So I can say let, I don't know, movie equal the Wizard of Oz. And again, I've used a string literal and assigned it to the constant movie. So setting up strings is pretty straightforward. Let's say I would like to create a variable that had a quote in it. So I needed a couple set of quotation marks. So I can say hello equals, I said hello, and you can see that Xcode is trying to put in quotes, but if I run this, it's giving me an error because it doesn't understand that I have these extra quotes in there. The way you can incorporate those inner quotes into your string literal is by the use of the escape character or backslash. So if in front of this one, I use the backslash, which is above the enter return key, and I have to do that for each of the quotes I'm escaping. So I have one in front of this quote and one in front of this quote. Now if I run that, it should, and now you can see the quotes are in there. And in the output over here, I can see both sets of quotation marks. If I use the quick look feature, I see how it will look on the screen without just the one set of quotes. So escape characters let you use special characters in your string literals. There's a couple of other escape character combinations that are useful, and that's the tab and the new line. And if I do a new line equals, I said, I won't put the quotes in this time. This N, it's like hitting the enter key on a keyboard. So and it should give it to me on 2 lines. And again, if I look at it here, with the more formatted output, you can see that it appears on 2 lines. The other one that you'll see sometimes is the tab key. So if I wanted to incorporate a tab, and that would be \T. And that would just put a longer space in there. And you can see there's the space. So again, tabs and new lines are sometimes some things you'll see in string literals. Well, as we saw before, it is possible to actually join 2 strings together, and that's through what's called string concatenation. And that's where you can use the plus operator to make 2 strings into one. So I'll do let first name equals Albert, and let last name equal Einstein. And then I can have let full name equal first name plus last name. And if I print that, I should see that I get the full Albert Einstein. You might notice that there's no space in between these words because I didn't put them in my string literals. If I wanted to include a space, I'd have to actually add one there or at the end of this one. And now if I print it, I will get the space instead. So you have to be aware that sometimes that Swift is not going to put in those spaces between words for you. And I can add strings to existing variables if I want. So for example, if I have variable name equals Marie, I can say name equals name plus Curie. And so again, that takes the existing variable name and just adds on to it. Let me go ahead and put in a space here, and you can see that I get the same result as before. This is actually considered the longhand way of doing it, so I can actually take this out and do name plus equals. And that's the same result as saying name equals name plus query. And if I hit that, you see I get the same results. So that's string concatenation, which is a fancy way of saying joining two things together. So let's say I wanted to print out a variable within another string. Well, I can do that with something called string interpolation. So let's see how that works. So I'm going to say let width equals 10. And I'm going to say let height equals 25. And I'm going to have a string that prints out the results of that if I wanted to find the area of a rectangle. So I can say print the area of a rectangle with a width of. Now I want to be able to put this actual value within my string. So again, I'm going to use the escape character and then a parentheses. I'm going to do width. And then I will add the next one and a length, or sorry, height, sorry about that. Height of has an area of, and I can actually put expressions right into my string literal. So I can put parentheses, width, times height, end quote. And you can see once I put in that final quote, the color of the lines change to show that these are variables. And now if I run this, I'm going to click on the inline feature this time. It says the area of a rectangle with a width of 10 and a height of 25 has an area of 250. So you can see I can put variables directly into my string literals. I just need to use the escape character and parentheses to do that. Another thing that we'll do quite often is to test if two strings are the same. And we can use that with the equals equals operator. So for example, if I had let name, actually I used name before, let my name equal Brian, and then let other name equal Brian. And we're going to see if those two strings are the same. So I can do print my name equals other name. And you've probably have seen the two equal signs to test for equivalency. And if these two are the same, it should print true. If they're not the same, it'll print false. So let's run that. And it says false. So when you are testing for string equivalency, uppercase and lowercase do matter. So if I change this to uppercase, now it says true. So strings have to be exactly the same for them to be equal or equivalent. There are lots and lots of string methods that can be used, and I urge you to look at the documentation to see what those are. For example, if I did print my name dot uppercase, it converts everything to uppercase. And the same thing with lowercase. I can do print my name dot lowercase, and everything is lowercase. So uppercase and lowercase are very common. Another one that's used a lot is the function count, or the property count. So if I want to find out how many characters are in a string, I can do print my name dot count, and it should give me the number of characters in that string. So this is a very quick look at strings. Once again, I urge you to look at the documentation to see what other things you can do with strings, but for the most part, this is the majority of what you'll see. In the next video, we'll take a look at how to create custom functions within Swift.